Interviews on the Tan and J-Man Show are presented by Fraunfelder Dental Clinic. A great family-owned dental clinic offers laser whitening and dentistry along with braces, implants, and your typical teeth cleaning. Go see Dr. Bill Fraunfelder or Dr. DJ Fraunfelder today for all of your dental needs. Like them on Facebook and check out their website, www.stateoftheartsmile.com. I am joined this afternoon by legendary Indiana High School boys basketball coach and recently the former boys basketball coach at Guerin Catholic, Pete Smith. Pete, thanks for coming up and doing this interview with me.
Hey, it's great to be in my hometown of Rochester. Love it. Fighting Zebras, hoofs up.
Fighting Zebras. Where's the hoofs up come from? I've never heard that before.
Well, that's kind of self-proclaimed when people used to ask me where I was from. I always remember Brian Jennings' dad painted a big zebra on the wall in the gymnasium, and it always looked like a big ferocious zebra with his hoofs up. So I always tell people I'm a fighting zebra, hoofs up, and it's a tribute to Lee Jennings, who painted that on the wall there at Rochester High School in late 60s, early 70s probably.
Okay, yeah.
I think he painted in the 70s.
Okay.
When we started to get good, when we had Coach Powers and Coach Smith.
I don't think that zebra's there anymore on the wall.
I don't think
they
it's
did
not.
The whole gym just recently.
Real disappointed. I have pictures of it, though, that I
remember when it was up there.
Yeah, there's been times I've had parties and shown people some of my zebra pictures from your dad and I's high school days, and even before when we were really had some talented teams here at Rochester.
Yeah, and before you got into coaching, you, of course, graduated from Rochester in the late 70s. What were some of your favorite memories as a Rochester athlete?
Well, we had the privilege of being that 1978 team that won the sectional and then didn't get to play the regional for 2 weeks because of the famous blizzard of 78, and that was a fun year. We had won the sectional a while. Rochester hadn't. Our senior year, we won the Northern Lakes Conference, but got beat in the sectional by 2 by Warsaw. But the funnest part, the most fun, was being around our teammates. We were just a really close knit group of guys, especially the 78 group. The seniors, we were very close. The seniors and juniors class, and we had one of those years. We played in a really tough holiday tournament that year. Lost both games by 3 points. One to Lafayette Jeff and one to Anderson Madison Heights, and but we got it going by the sectional. We played good at the end of the year. We beat Logan Sport. Your Uncle Nick had a great game down at the Berry Bowl. That was another funny years that we had to play that game, as you probably heard, at 3:30 in the afternoon. We got a school to leave because of the energy crisis, and schools couldn't stay open unless they had windows in the gym, and the Berry Bowl did. And we won Logan Land that year, and then we won the Logan Land the next year, which is 18 schools or something. But for us, that was pretty cool. Yeah. But I have a lot of great memories, but mostly the bonding of the team and just the unity.
And when did you figure out you wanted to be involved with basketball as a coach?
I was working Bethel basketball camp where I went to college to play basketball. I was working basketball camp, and Coach Homer Drew, who later went on to Valpo, he said, you really seem like you're enjoying working with these kids. I worked at camps when I was a junior and senior in high school. I used to work Grace College's Lancer basketball camp in the summer. That's why I kind of quit playing varsity baseball after my sophomore year. Back then the NLC didn't open up. If Coach Hooker didn't tell you when he was on, the NLC didn't play until after the sectionals were over.
Okay.
And so the Northern Lakes Conference, it was weird. And so you played baseball the whole summer.
Yeah.
And I was more into basketball. Your dad was more into basketball, and some guys like that, Dave McCarter, same way. So we all kind of just started, running track. We all ran track. But where I'm going with this is that Coach Drew said, well, I know you're studying to be an accountant, but have you thought about being a business teacher and teach accounting? And I remember coming home and telling my mom and dad, we lived on Goose Pond Road here in Rochester, and they said, well, you're not going to have a very high living scale because teachers don't get paid a lot. You're going to have to do something else. So I always kind of dabbled in businesses and stuff a little bit if I could invest in things I thought were pretty good. But it was basically Coach Drew. Having good high school coaches in Galen Smith and Phil McCarter, they kind of inspired me. Joanne Hungerford was an outstanding accounting teacher, and she inspired me to get into accounting. Plus, my mom was an accountant, but she was not the inspiring person. It was more Mrs. Hungerford. So, with that being said, that's I started doing that, and then my senior year, I didn't play in college my senior year, so I was the JV basketball coach at South Bend Adams. And the next year when I graduated from Bethel, or that year when I graduated from Bethel. Warsaw had a job for me. We played them during the season. And Eric, this is Tanner, this is a true story about Eric. Maybe you know this. I was supposed to be in your dad and mom's wedding, and it was the night that we played Warsaw. And I was hunting for a job, and I just think I made a good tie that night with the Warsaw coaching staff, Coach Al Rhodes, and I just wondered if I wouldn't have coached my team that night. Yeah. And gone to the wedding, which it pained me not to be your mom and dad's wedding. I wonder if Warsaw may have not hired me because they would have thought, well, maybe he's not committed enough. Yeah. It was a really tough choice. But so I went to Warsaw in 1983 when I graduated from Bethel College.
And one thing you did at Warsaw, besides having a lot of success, was you got to coach a guy named Rick Fox.
I did.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
That's a unique story.
How did he come from where he came to Warsaw, Indiana?
Grace College was doing a missionary trip in the Bahamas, and two of the players stayed with the church's families. So, let's say there's 8 families, so 2 players from the team would stay with those. There's 16 people. Well, the 2 players that stayed with Rick's parents were having dinner one night, and they introduced him to Rick and said, Rick will be the first one that's going to go to the United States for high school because our school is unaccredited, and if he goes to Kingsway Academy, he won't be eligible to go to college because he won't have the credentials. I mean, he'll have to go to junior college, and he's a smart kid, they said. So they had told the 2 players that Rick was going to go probably to Miami. They're going to send him to a boarding school so he could get accredited and go to college. Rick was about 6'4", 175 or 80 pounds. Wow. Tree trunk legs, chiseled chest. I mean, skinny little chest. And so the players went back and told Coach Kessler, Jim Kessler at Grace College, hey, there's this kid that looks like he's pretty athletic that their parents are talking about, him going to Miami. Well, Coach Kessler made the introduction, well, why don't you send him over to our basketball camp this summer? And if he enjoys it enough, instead of going to Miami to high school, we could probably find a family, a Grace College set of graduates, which they did, fast forward, and that's how he came over.
Wow.
And
that's fascinating.
The 2, it was called, their names are the Gossmans, Gene and Jenny Gossman, took guardianship of Rick, and Rick went to Warsaw High School, and Rick had never played basketball. He'd seen one game ever in his life, and that was the national championship game between Carolina and Georgetown.
Wow.
But their whole goal when he came over was maybe he could learn enough basketball and go to Grace College because their church supported Grace College. So that was their whole goal. Maybe it'd be good enough that Coach Kessler would allow him to be on the basketball team. Rick's mom was a nurse, and she was an Olympian for Canada. And she'd come down to the Bahamas for work because she was a nurse. And Rick's father Ulrich never went past like the 6th grade, but they owned the ice processing business, like the ice plant in Nassau and Freeport. So they were kind of well-to-do compared to other families in Nassau.
That's incredible.
So I got to coach him. We coached him all summer. The thing about this, Tanner, and I've spoke at clinics about this, if you can get someone that doesn't have any bad habits, you got a great chance of coaching him a lot better than trying to change bad habits.
Yeah.
He played softball and soccer at Kingsway Academy. He was shooting from around his chest, and we moved his shot pocket up, and then he learned it.
Yeah.
Every time a shot goes up, you turn and shield the guy off the board. It's called blocking out. And he did it every time. Because you told him that.
Yeah.
Not because
didn't know better.
He'd never played as a 2nd grade or 3rd grade where they just run up and down the floor and ball and ask for the ball. So he was a joy to coach, and he our whole goal that year, we had won the state the year before in 1984, and we lost all sides we had. Rob Randalls and Marty Lehman were our 2 big guys, both wanted to play college. Marty was an Indiana All-Star. And so we were hoping maybe we could get Rick ready by the end of the season because Marion had a great team coming back. Well, the first quarter of our JV game against South Bend LaSalle, which I'm coaching as the JV coach, Rick has 10 points and 6 rebounds. The score is 10-6. We're ahead, and he's gotten every rebound and every missed shot. And Coach Rhodes comes up to me. I'm clapping. Good job, guys. I'm coming over, and he said, Coach Smith, unbelievably outstanding job. What I thought was going to take a whole season took you 1 quarter. He said, you don't get him anymore. And he played in the varsity game that night, and the rest is history. So
you can say coach him for his first quarter.
I did. I coached him for his first quarter. Yeah.
And I got to ask one more. question about Rick before we move on to another.
And I was
topic.
his head track coach too.
Oh, you were? Okay.
And he was a state finalist in
he's
track
probably
for
pretty
us.
good at that too. He
Yeah.
sounds like an all-natural athlete. But he went to North Carolina, like I'm sure most listeners know. But how close, I have to know as a Purdue fan, how close was he to maybe going to Purdue? I know they really wanted him, and I heard your interview with Kent Sterling, and you talked about Troy Lewis coming up. So
yeah, Troy and I were roommates. They were trying to do everything they could to influence Rick to go to Purdue. I truly think if Carolina wasn't maybe the first basketball game he'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Kevin Stallings was the assistant at the time for Coach Katie that handled his recruiting.
Pittsburgh coach now? Or no, was.
Just got fired.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, had a great career at Vanderbilt, though. But he and Coach Stallings didn't really mesh very close for some reason. But, boy, when you think of the team, that if Rick would have been as a freshman that year, Kip Jones ended up being the starter. Rick would have been the starter probably with, Stevens Lewis, McCants, Mitchell, and Fox probably would have been starting five.
Yeah, that would have been tough.
But he when push came to shove, IU always thought they were in the picture, but he didn't have much desire really to. Coach Knight. I'm not saying we didn't yell at him, but he saw how Coach Knight was demonstrative, and it just didn't fit his demeanor.
Sure.
Coach, Carolina was a really good place for him. I think Purdue would have been too. And my parents went to Purdue, so being a Purdue fan, I was kind of hoping. Yeah. But I think it came down to those two. Georgia Tech was third, probably, and IU was fourth in his Final Four. Kentucky was fifth.
It worked out well for him. I mean,
it
did. He went on to have so.
Yeah.
And then from there, you got your first head coaching job at fellow TRC school now, Manchester. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Well, I interviewed at Rochester that summer, and Coach Titus got it over me.
Okay.
And luckily, Manchester job was open also, and I had a great relationship with Dr. Eckert, who was the superintendent here at Rochester when I was in high school.
Were they in the TRC at the time, or was that?
Yes, both schools by then were in the TRC.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know when the conference kind of
evolved. So my first head coaching job was North Manchester in 1987. I was at Warsaw 4 seasons. Had some opportunities to leave after my third year, and was really hoping that, going back to Rick was ruled ineligible his senior year by the IHSAA.
That's right. I forgot about that.
We were hoping that the courts would make the right choice and not go by the exact rules. The exact rules was he was 16 when they ruled him ineligible, saying he'd used up his eligibility in Nassau. Regretfully, he played softball and soccer, but that did count for the bylaw rules. So I was kind of hoping maybe we could have one more special year, and without him, we could have, we could take you, me, your dad, and Nick, and Rick, and beat our team that year. And that's no disrespect to our players, but Rick was that good.
Yeah.
He was still named McDonald's All-American. He played in the McDonald's All-American game. He was the Indiana All-Star, even though he didn't play for us in the senior year.
So he got
the
all
All-Star
those
team.
accolades, even though he didn't even play. Wow.
Played with Lyndon Jones, Jay Edwards, Derek Keys, Jerome Harmon, and Rick Fox were the starting five. That was a great Indiana All-Star team.
Wow.
But I went to Manchester then in '87 and was there for 4 years.
I think a lot of basketball junkies probably know this, but in 1990 and 91, you were at Manchester High School. Steve Alford was at Manchester College, which is now Manchester University now, and you both had undefeated regular seasons.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that? The buzz around town had to be incredible.
That town was really hopping. It was very, very cool. Coach Alford got the job because he'd been cut by the Dallas Mavericks, and no other NBA team picked him up, so it was a great timing for him. I'd been offered the college job the year before and didn't want to coach Division III.
Yeah.
It's tough to recruit Division III.
Yeah.
It really is, because you don't get any money for the kids. So I really, and I always wanted to be a high school coach. I had opportunities to get in college and didn't, but that was a really special year. Unfortunately, it didn't end really well. From the standpoint of we lost in the sectional championship game after 22 wins to Whitco, who went on to not only
Coach Patrick there.
Coach Patrick was there. They had a very fine team. They had an Indiana All-Star named Steve Nicodemus.
Played at Michigan State.
Went to Michigan State. He had 38 points in the sectional championship game. We'd only beaten him by 2 in the regular season. So on a really,
so knew it was going to be a dogfight.
And we were such arch rivals with Whitco. When we beat him by 2 that year, I come out to get my car that night. Someone had broke my tailpipe off of my car.
No kidding! Wow.
And people said, "Well, it was Whitco."
Wow.
So but it was such a big rivalry, Whitco and Manchester. And so I went there until '91 and had that great season. And then we were rated number 9 in the state, no classes, obviously, and time to move on.
Yep.
So I went to Noblesville in 91, got the opportunity to go to Noblesville. I'd been offered the Jay County job and the Noblesville job. Took the Noblesville job and was there 3 years. And my third year, we lost the regional championship to Brownsburg. They had a great team. Eric Riggs was their star. He played with the Dodgers in Major League Baseball for a while. They had 5 really good players, though. But I was missing Northern Indiana.
Yeah.
Going to Bethel and Mishawaka, the Penn job opened up. So in 1994, I left Noblesville after we'd won the sectional, lost the regional finals, and took the Penn job. Yeah.
And while you were at Penn, at some point, you coached with the late Casey Jones, right? At some point up at Penn, or am I mistaken?
Oh, Kerry Jones.
Kerry Jones, excuse me.
Kerry,
yeah.
I hired
Kerry
when
Jones.
I came there. Kerry was my freshman coach, and then was a varsity assistant for me 2 years. He actually was developmental program coach. So he was on the bench with us and with practices, but he also go to our 3 junior highs. While I was up there, Discovery Middle School opened up. So we had 3 middle schools, and he was teaching the kids what we wanted to know by the time they got to the varsity level in practices with their coaches. So, yeah, Kerry coached with me there. Tragic loss.
Yes.
What a great person.
Yes.
I know Rochester maybe wasn't the greatest fit for him as a coach. But he loved basketball.
Yeah.
He bled basketball, and he was a great assistant coach for me. But died tragically in a car accident, hit by a drunk driver while he was doing statistics for the Bremen football team, coming back from a sectional or regional game, and just a way too early of a loss.
Yes.
But yes, Kerry did coach.
I thought so. I just remembered him from his short stint as a Zebra coach. I remember going to the camp and everything. So
yeah.
And how many years were you at Penn?
I was there from 94 to 98.
94, 98.
Yeah.
And any postseason success there?
Won some sectionals, got beat in the regional. One sectional, got beat in the regional. We had a really tough sectional back then. Again, not in class sports. Elkhart Central beat us by 2 one year, and they made it to the Final Four with Ben Larson, a great guard, and they had a big 6'8" kid that was tough. So they beat us by 2 in the section 1 year, made it to the Final Four. And our last year, some team called South Bend Clay did pretty good.
Yeah.
They won our sectional and won the state championship in '94. They beat Valpo and Bryce Drew, who was our ball boy when I was in college. He was our ball boy for his dad. Yeah, and Bryce is now the head coach at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, doing a good job. Well, I think he's got to do a good job. He's got a heck of a class coming in.
He's got a heck of a class. They were under 500 last year, and Vanderbilt, even when Coach Stallings was there, was
consistently a winner,
making the tournament. Maybe not having great, but making the tournament. That's the big thing in college basketball.
Yep. You got to make.
What have you done for me lately?
Yep, give yourself a chance.
So I was at Penn for 4 years and built a great relationship with Chris Giesman, their football coach. We became close friends. I helped out with the football team whenever he needed it, and we won 3 state championships while I was there. A lot of my basketball players played both basketball and football. So I'm a big multi-sport athlete, whether you're a school of 5,100 at Carmel like they are now. They weren't when I was there. Or a school of 3,500 at Penn, or a school of 500 like Rochester. I think kids should play as many sports as they want to. Regretfully, because of club sports and AAU, which is a whole other subject and maybe another show, kids don't do that as much nowadays.
Yeah.
So when I got to Penn, Scott Dreisbach had just graduated, and Scott came back and said, our basketball coach wanted me to pick between football and basketball, and he said, I said, well, that would not have happened. Scott Dreisbach was a whale of an athlete. Yeah, I use Jeff George as a great example. Jeff, the All-American quarterback at Purdue, then Illinois. That kind of thing. He was a great high school basketball player, and most of these guys are. Scott Rowland in baseball, for instance, tremendous high school basketball player. Could have just played baseball, but the big news I've just heard is the Lynch boy, the quarterback at Penn, last year as a sophomore, has decided not to play football next year because he's like Major League Baseball top 20 pick. He already committed to Notre Dame as a freshman for baseball.
I did not know that.
But I was up there on business before the show, and that was the word that I'd heard was that.
Doesn't want to take a risk of injury.
He's going to put all his. But he was a pretty good quarterback. He was a stud.
Yeah.
Now Ron Paulus' son's going to be the quarterback next year, Penn most likely. So
good filling.
Yeah, not too bad a filling. No. So those are my Penn years from 94 to 98. Arguably the best school I taught at. I enjoyed teaching. I taught accounting.
Did you mostly teach the same subject throughout your teaching career, or did you kind of
most of my years was in business and accounting.
Okay.
Some schools I had to teach phys ed. which I didn't enjoy as much not because of the subject matter as much as I didn't like being in the gym all day and night.
Yeah.
It was great to be in my accounting class and then at 3:05 change hats, go down to the hallway and coach basketball.
Yeah, sure.
Still teaching, but most of my years were in accounting.
Okay.
Again, business. So that's what I taught at Penn all 4 years. And it was a great situation. It's just I was dating my wife when I was at Noblesville. We just started.
Okay.
And when I asked her to marry me 3 years into being at Penn, to make the marriage work, I had to move back to the Noblesville area.
Okay.
And that's where the Carmel job opened up. And I was lucky enough to get the Carmel job to get myself back down there.
Okay. And you were at Carmel for...
Head coach there from 98 to 02.
98 to 02.
Yeah.
And that would have been the time Josh McRoberts was there.
I had Josh there. And back to Noblesville, I had left Tommy Coverdale as a freshman.
Oh, Indiana Hoosier, yeah. A lot of Purdue Boilermakers' favorite Hoosier. Maybe not so much.
So I've been blessed to be at timing where some really good players.
Yeah.
So I had Josh McRoberts and got to coach him in the McDonald's All-American game in 2005 when I was at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I went to that game. I think thanks to you got us some tickets, and Dad and I went up there. And
so Josh was tremendous to coach.
Yeah.
Coached at Carmel for 4 years, and about that time my dad passed away in 01. Just things at Carmel got things going a little bit, but not great. So I stepped out of basketball for a couple years, did some broadcasting, and then Guerin was opening up Guerin Catholic in 04, and it was just a great transition. I continued my teaching at Carmel in accounting, but then I went to Guerin in 04.
And in 04 was the first year of the school, right?
88 freshmen, that's all we had.
Yeah, I was going to say you taught the freshmen, or you coached the freshman basketball team, didn't you?
I did. We scheduled one varsity game against a small school and beat them, but we played predominantly a freshman schedule. The next year, the new freshmen came in, which we had about 100 freshmen the next year. So we had a JV team and a varsity team, scheduled 4 varsity games that year just for them to get their feet wet, because the IHSA makes you have a 2-year probationary period for any new high school that starts up. So then that third year, the 06-07 season, was our first year we had a varsity basketball team. So we had a varsity, a JV, and a freshman. No seniors yet, though.
Yeah.
So we had all juniors that first year.
That's pretty neat. I don't think too many coaches can say that they coached a program from the ground up.
Well, Jack Kiefer at Lawrence North, and he is still coaching.
Yeah.
He was at Oak Hill. Yeah. A lot of people around this area know Coach Kiefer because when Coach Smith came to Rochester from Oak Hill, Coach Kiefer got the varsity job at Oak Hill. Mm-hmm. And Coach McCarter, Phil McCarter, was Coach Kiefer's high school coach back at Oak Hill or Converse, maybe even Converse back then. I'm not sure.
I think you might be right.
Yeah. I was born, but I don't remember the games quite so much back then. So that's kind of happened, and just had a wonderful experience at Guerin Catholic.
Yeah.
12 years. We had
2
a varsity
state titles.
team. Yeah. Our last 11 years. Our first year we were 9-12. Got beat by Park Tudor by 2 in the sectional championship, and then after that we never had a losing season. Won some sectionals, and a couple of the years we won a couple state championships.
Carried a 206 wins and a 101 loss record at Guerin. That's a pretty good record there, I'd say.
Yeah. Great families.
And overall, you've had 390 wins and 254 losses, so that's something to be majorly proud of, I'd say.
But it was time. I was not enjoying going to practices anymore. As I think I told you before, we had our first day of open gym on June 5th this year, and then we had camp that day. 29 kids in open gym from 7:30 to 8:45, or 7 o'clock to 8:45, and then 150 kids in the 3 sessions that afternoon. I just went home to my wife and I said, it's time. People have always said you'll know the time, and I wasn't looking forward to the practices anymore. A lot of it, Tanner, is because I'm in the private sector now. I work for an engineering firm that builds schools and municipalities, jails, city centers, town halls, and I travel a lot. And the last 2 years, I retired from teaching in 2016. The last 2 years, I've been driving a lot.
Yeah.
And then I zip back for practice.
Yeah.
And, coaching for me was part of my teaching day. And when I didn't have my teaching day, I just didn't enjoy the practices. Still got into the games.
Yeah.
But when you're not getting into the practices, you should not be coaching.
Yeah.
If you just want to coach the games, then you should play the esports that Rick Fox started. The esport games, just playing on a computer. You don't have to practice. Those guys already have the skills. Now you just got to make the right moves.
Yeah.
High school basketball, college basketball, and to some extent, pro basketball isn't like that.
Yeah.
So high school is the grassroots, and I just was not into practices anymore.
Yeah.
I just didn't enjoy it as much.
I'm glad you hit on that because I was going to ask you if not teaching had any influence on that. So
Yeah, a big influence.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so now I have a section of our program we usually do with guests called Rapid Fire, where most of them are going to be related to basketball questions, but I do have some fun ones that aren't related to basketball at all.
I've heard your show.
So
thank you for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for taking the time.
This is exciting.
Yeah, thank you. So first question, this is probably the most silly one, but we ask every guest we had on, is a hot dog considered a sandwich?
I believe it is,
yes,
because
okay.
It goes on a bun.
That's what my dad's answer is.
Because it goes on a bun. And your dad and I grew up with the same teachers and the same morals and the same ethics. So it's on a bun, it's a sandwich.
I just always think it's in its own category, that and bratwurst, but it's a good argument to have. So you kind of mentioned this earlier, but best high school sports memory, if you had to pick one. I know you kind of...
Well, if it's just high school sports memory, it's leading my team to a state championship. I mean, being able to coach a state championship. Playing wise, my senior year, I had 15 points in our last regular season game against Logansport, again at the Berry Bowl.
Yeah.
I had 15.7 rebounds, and unofficially, Eric and I figured out one night, 6 assists. And we beat Logansport, who had a pretty good team that year. They finished second in the North Central Conference by Muncie Central, who won the state that year, our senior year. And we won the Loganland. So that was probably an individual, and it was important because we won the game too.
And it's fun to have a game like that in a gym like that. I mean, the Berry Bowl
used to be packed back then.
Yeah, it's not so much anymore. They've had some good teams recently, but
not like it used to be.
Yeah, nothing like I've heard. And that's one thing I wanted to ask you, what your opinion is on class basketball versus non-class basketball.
Well, I was on the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association board when the referendum, the first time where they said the IHSA is going to adapt to 4 classes in basketball. Mm-hmm. A number of us went around the state and got principal signatures to have a referendum revote. And they voted again. And the principals of at the time, about 400, at that time, maybe 392 or something, because now there's charter schools and stuff, like in the high 300s, still voted more than 66% to have class sports. I didn't want class sports. Part of the reason I kind of did my job jumping was because I wanted to get to a school where I really thought I had a legitimate chance if I had the right material and I could do a good job coaching to win a state championship. Yeah. Now that it's classes, it's not that way. Now your job security is not. Now there's more pressure on coaches than they think there was because now there's 4 state champions. Yeah. So you may be at that single A school and think, okay, we're not supposed to win it, but all the schools are your size. You better be doing your job. Yeah. So I think it caused more potential job firings doing that. So back to trying to answer your question, though, I've adapted the attitude that, okay, if this is what we're going to do, some coaches are still miserable about it and still upset about it. And I'm not saying I wish it was still the other way, but it's not. It's pretty neat, to win our state championships and the couple of state championships, what it does to your school morale and to your individual players and just school. It's really neat. But I am a purist also. Yeah, like I am a purist. I
understand completely.
When I think about that, my Manchester teams were pretty good.
Yeah.
First year we got beat in the regional final in 1988 by Dwenger in double overtime. They lost to Sean Kemp the next game in Concord. But we were only about 480 kids. Yeah. We wouldn't have been playing those same schools. We had to win the Columbia City sectional. Columbia City is over 1,000 kids. But, it's water over the dam. But, I may have not been on such a aggressive track to get to a larger high school.
Yeah.
And I got to arguably, at the time, we were the second largest school in the state of Carmel.
Who was the largest?
Ben Davis at the time was. Carmel just passed North Central. About 39 or 4,000 kids, and the freshmen were coming in. Now they're 5,100.
Wow.
And I got to Penn, and Penn was the 5th largest school.
Yeah.
Numbers doesn't ensure state championships.
Yeah.
But like I said, at Penn, two of the 4 years I was there, we had a state champion one year, and we had a state Final Four in Elkhart Central the other year. So.
Yeah. And I think you kind of mentioned this earlier, saying you could have a whole other show about it, but I take it you're not a big fan of the AAU circuit. Can you kind of shortly hit on that a little bit?
I think it's hurt high school basketball
I agree,
a lot.
100%.
The importance of high school basketball, the coaching that we've had to adapt to because players come back from their AAU experiences and aren't as receptive to where you think it's best for them to play on the team compared to where they've played with their AAU coach or their individual trainer. So it's made it more of a challenge. It's been less fun as a basketball coach since that's gotten so big. When I got some unbelievable experiences. When I was coming up, the 5-star camp was everything out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And that's where I got to coach Grant Hill and Travis Best. We won the league one week. And some of the guys I got to coach there and got to coach the McDonald's game in 88 and 05. Those were really important times. Coaches would evaluate the kids at camp on their work ethic, how they did at stations, were they paying attention to coaches, and we could set up matchups. You know, we got J.R. Reed playing against Alonzo Mourning, and things like that. AAU, I don't think the kids put in as much time to practice because they're traveling every weekend. When they don't play, they don't go practice. They go back to the swimming pools or they watch the other teams play on court 3 because there's no course to practice on. So it's changed the game a lot. And I know there's a lot of people that like that kind of basketball, but it's changed the way you coach in high school, I believe, a lot. And though there are some good AAU programs out there that try to do a lot of good things well. There's a lot that are just out there for their kids' sons. They coach them that way. They try to pick off players from other teams and again, change what a high school coach has kind of tried to get them to do. When my big post players at Penn would come back and now they're firing 3-pointers out there, I already got guards that can do that. I need somebody to get some rebounds against Lee Nalon and, those guys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it probably I'm guessing from a recruiting standpoint, a lot of those college coaches are trying to keep in contact more with the AAU coaches than
their posse. Yeah.
The actual high school coaches. And that doesn't seem right to me. But.
Well, it's changed a lot. Yeah, the high school coach. Now, I've been blessed. Guerin Catholic, we've had, 12 kids probably go and play college basketball. Most of them are Division III. Because of our academic base, they're getting a lot of financial aid because they qualify for grade type stuff.
Yeah.
I had Aaron Brennan that just was the captain of the IUP team this year. Jack Hansen, my senior, just past season going to IUPY. We've got Matt Holba over at Fort Wayne. He was a starter at Lehigh as a freshman, transferred back, kind of got homesick. Those kind of things. But we were producing 2 to 3 Division III players a year, which is like the University of Chicago's. Just had an All-American in Emory Whitrap. Kids playing at DePaul. I've had 4 kids play at DePaul since at Guerin. So I got a lot of contact with the Division III coaches, but the Division I coaches spend more time, as you alluded to, with the AAU coaches because that's the only time they see them. Yeah. And the AAU coaches are more instrumental in a lot of situations than the high school coaches now. So that's a change I haven't liked. Another good reason to retire. When you start getting a bad attitude, when I was a young teacher and I would see older teachers that I knew they were about the age where they could, but they were on tenure back then, so they couldn't get fired, and they had bad attitudes, I thought, I don't want to be that way. If I start getting spoiled with my attitude about teaching, and after 33 years, 2016, I thought, I'm going to change professions because I need to be like those guys. Yeah. None of the teachers at Rochester. Yeah. I'm just talking about places because we had great teachers at Rochester. We had some veteran, wily, good teachers.
And this is probably a really tough question because you've coached so many games.
Hey, I've had a lot of tough questions.
But if you could have one do-over game, what would it be? I guess which loss kind of stands out?
Well, I mentioned the Whitco loss. Awfully heavy. Gosh, there was a loss to Tipton at Guerin Catholic. Since it's more recent, there's a loss to Tipton where they were loaded. They had a 7-footer that went to Ohio. They had the Elston kid that went to IU. They had Greg Dickey, a great guard that played at St. Francis. They had the rich kid that went to DePaul. And I think I kind of rolled the dice a little bit in that game and fouled out one of our kids early in the fourth quarter that I wish maybe I could have bought some more time. They were a great team. They lost to Deshaun Thomas. And Fort Wayne Lures won the state that year.
That was a good team.
We were still a 2A school. That's been an interesting thing is how you move up. We were 2A. 2012, we moved up to 3A. We're the first team in the state ever to have to move up to 4A because of the success factor the IHSA did. And then last year we went back to 3A, and we just had some injuries, or I thought we could make a good run there. So, but that's probably there's several.
Yeah.
That is a tough question. That Whitco loss still stings me, just because I had a kid get 4 fouls in the first half. That
doesn't
Bellows.
help.
Yeah, he picked up his third, and while I was interjecting with the other official put the ball in play, and Coach Patrick went right after Dusty, and he was like trying to move out of the way.
Yeah.
And picked up his 4th foul in the first half, and he was our second leading scorer. He came off the bench. He was my secret weapon. Not secret, everybody knew it, but you kind of forget. You lull him to sleep by playing the first 5, and then here comes a guy coming off the bench that is your second leading scorer. It's like they forget about it.
Yeah.
Line change. It's kind of like the NBA strategy of when you're going to play your second string group compared to your starters. Some teams go early. So,
different strategy. Chess match.
Yeah, different strategy. But those two probably. I mean, at every school, I probably had a game or two.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned that you remember the losses almost more than the wins just because you felt so bad for the kids.
I do. Yeah. I've always. I just remember the losses a lot more than the wins. The wins are what I enjoy about the wins is seeing the kids after we've done it, not in the moment so much as, hey, state champ, or hey, Trust Award winner. We've had Trust Award winner stuff. It's the losses, I think, more.
Best team you've ever coached?
Probably the '88 McDonald's All-American game.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, Christian Leitner is your center, like him or not, was a great kid and a great player, but. The 05 team, as you remember, may not remember, it's a trivia question. That was the last year high school kids could come out.
That's right.
06 was Odin, and that was the Odin rule where you had to go to college.
Wasn't Andrew Bynum one of the last ones?
He was on the other team.
He was the youngest player at the time drafted. I think.
Yeah, that year was Monte Ellis, C.J. Miles, Louis Williams, Bynum, Amir Johnson.
Yep.
He was on our
He's
team.
Still bouncing around.
He was our starting center.
Then you had some guys with college success.
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah, Gerald Green was in that game.
Gerald Green, Danny Green as well.
Danny Green, yeah.
Tyler Hansborough.
Oh, he was great to coach. He was on our team. He was a great kid to coach.
I mean, how could you not love Hansborough?
Yeah, Psycho T was great. Yeah, it was great.
You had Zeller, the oldest Zeller, Luke Zeller.
Luke was on that team. Yeah.
Mick Roberts, as you announced earlier. Who was
real good.
Was Devendorf in that game?
Eric Devendorf from Syracuse. He had a lot of tattoos.
Yes, he did.
I had never seen that many tattoos on somebody. At that time, that was 2005. Now it's kind of commonplace, and people like tattoos nowadays. But it's been real interesting. Yeah, to have Gerald Green, who won the NBA dunk contest, and Danny Green.
That's when he blew the cupcake out, wasn't it?
Yes.
With the dunk contest, he blew the cupcake.
My best team, though, high school team, was probably the one that didn't win the state championship in 2014 at Guerin Catholic.
Okay.
We lost to Greensburg in the semi-state, 77-71. We did not lose a game at home or on the road all season. Our only 4 losses that year, we lost to Bloomington South and New Haven. They had the big 7-footer that went to Dayton and passed away a few years ago in the holiday tournament. We tipped in the ball at the buzzer to lose to Bloomington South. We tipped it in ourselves to go into overtime. Then we lost to Keelan Martin and Quentin Snyder. We played Louisville Ballard down at Freedom Hall. And then we lost in the semi-state to Bryant McIntosh from Northwestern fame and the Sellers kid that was a 4-year starter at Ball State, and the big kid Welledge, who's been out at Santa Clara and has transferred back to Loyola, and now that Loyola is a cool place to go.
Yeah.
And they were 6'9", and they won the state that year very easily. They beat Bowman by 25 the next week. We were their closest game all season, other than North Central gave them a close game at home. North Central was pretty good back then. I think they would have won the 4A that year. I mean, a lot of people say I'm goofy. That was Trey Lyles' senior year.
Yeah.
Trey Lyles and Tyler were good, but they didn't always play hard.
Yeah.
And I think Greensburg was the best team in the state, period, that year. Easy for me to say because we got beat by 6, but we were playing pretty good going to that. That was our best team, but we didn't win the state that year, probably. Our best group of players.
Best mesh group of players.
Most talented team.
Yeah,
so I feel bad about that.
A 2-part question here. Best player you've coached against and best player you have coached.
High school wise, as a head coach or as an assistant coach?
Either or. That's
good question.
Just coached.
I mean, I'm not kidding you. When I was at Warsaw,
Yeah.
the night Sean Kemp had 42 points and 17 rebounds, and Rick Fox had 2 points and fouled out.
Oh.
Now, we did play him in the regional final that year, and Rick got the best of Kemp, but Sean Kemp was a man shot, and Sean Kemp was a man
Even
shot.
the NBA, you put on his highlights now of his dunks.
Now that's in Indiana. Now coaching at 5-star, I got to coach Grant Hill, as I said earlier in the show. He's the most wonderful kid I've ever coached. I mean, other than my own kids in high school. The year after I coached him at 5-star, I saw him at the Nike ABCD camp at IUPUI. Saw him at the end of the gym floor. We didn't even think about saying hi to him. He's, "Hey, Coach Smith, it's me, Grant Hill." He's waving at. I mean, that's how nice of a kid. Yeah. You know, Lauren Woods didn't do that. Who played at Arizona. Lauren Woods, when I coached him the next summer, he looked at me like, "Who are you?" But I've got to coach some tremendous players, luckily, because of the ties I've made with some of the coaches. It's just been cool. I mean, getting to be friends with Calipari was my first roommate at 5-star camp, John Calipari. Meeting Tom Crean at the Western Michigan Big Man Camp. When he was a sophomore in college, I met him while I was working camp. Had taken Rick Fox, some guys up there, to become good friends with Izzo. And Mike Bray came down to our place Sunday and spoke at my Bryce Mitchell tournament. I met him at Duke camp. I went to Duke camp in '88 and took a couple players out and worked. And Mike had just left DeMatha as an assistant to Morgan Wooten to be an assistant, like a grad assistant with Coach K at Duke in '88 when they're just starting to turn around. So I've been very blessed to be able to do those things, and player wise, because of that, I've been able to coach some of the best players ever. Yeah, it's been really, really cool.
And you mentioned you've been blessed to get to know a lot of coaches. We have a lot of IU and Purdue fans that listen to this podcast. What is your take on Matt Painter and Archie Miller?
Both really good coaches. I coached Matt in the 1990 Top 40 workout. Wow. Now it's called the Top 100. He played for Delta High School, and he was thin back then. For those that haven't seen pictures of him, Matt was thin. Great kid. Took charges, made passes, hit open shots. He's been very good to me as a college coach. I mean, whenever I need tickets, he's been great. I think he does a really good job. I want my son to play for him. Yeah. There's been a lot of misses where you. Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Gosh darn it! But that's basketball. Yep. Like Coach Painter a lot. Yep. Archie, I don't know Archie very well. I know Sean. Sean used to work 5-star with us. Okay. Archie was a little bit younger when I got out of the 5-star days in 2007. I think was my last year. His dad John and I used to work stations together at 5-star. His dad was a great high school basketball coach. Archie's dad and Sean's dad at Blackhawk High School out in Pittsburgh area. Archie's, I think he's a really good coach. Yeah. I think he did a great job by bringing in two guys I worked with at 5-star. James Bruiser Flint is his top recruiter, one of his top recruiters, and then Eddie Schilling, who is a great teacher of the game, won a couple state championships at Park Tudor, was the head coach at Wright State, was with Cal at Memphis and UMass, was with Steve Alford out of UCLA. He brought him back to Indiana, which Eddie's excited to be back. He's a great player development coach. And Archie can coach. He's not going to wow you, come speak at IU functions. And Matt does a good job. Mike Bray, like I said, did a great job the other night.
He always seemed like a really great guy.
Yeah, but Archie's not going to wow you with his speeches, but he can really coach him up. He can coach defense. He can coach team stuff. Last year, was a tough year because he never could get them to buy in completely. Though they had their moments. They had a couple good wins. Yeah. Then they would lose to teams. And
they seemed to play up and down to their competition.
They did. And I think the recruitment of Romeo is going to get them more players. And I think they'll be contenders here pretty soon. I know Purdue fans don't want to hear that, but
well, hey, it is what it is. Makes a rivalry good.
Yeah, and as I said earlier in the show, my parents went to Purdue, so I was growing up like your dad, a big Purdue fan, but I respect IU a lot. And my JV coach Tom Pritchard played there. My JV coach last couple of years.
I know a lot of guys around my age, of course.
Well,
Tom,
just YouTube his dunk against Minnesota.
Yeah,
it's still going. That's the most fired up I've ever seen Tom too, because Tom was one mellow JV coach for me the last couple of years, but super guy.
I think Purdue will go as far as Carson Edwards can take him next year, but player you're familiar with, Ryan Klein, I think will have a big role this year as a senior.
Yeah, I've known Ryan since he was in third grade. Won my hoop shoot that I ran for the Elks down in Noblesville, and Dad's a good friend, and I hope he has a great year.
I do too.
He's had such an awful start to last year with his shooting, and though he can play defense and take charges, that's not his forte. So when you're not making shots, he got himself more playing time by starting to do that. But there's not a lot of boy there either.
No,
Tanner. You put you on steroids and give you about 6 more inches, you got the same body.
Kid's a shooter,
but he is a shooter. He's a very confident kid. And I've always liked Ryan.
Yeah. He's and he showed flashes over his first 3 years at Purdue. He single-handedly won them a couple games, most notably at Pittsburgh his freshman year and at Penn State his sophomore year. So when he gets hot, he helps him out a bunch. But
he needs to be more of a consistent
hopefully
shooter.
Hopefully he can get consistent this year and
last
really
year
help him
had
out.
A terrible start in the sophomore year. He got in a little trouble, and that set him back a ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Non-basketball related question, but I know you're a big sports fan. You're a season ticket holder for the Colts, Purdue football, big Cub fan. What's your take on all three of the? What's your take on the Cub season, I guess, so far, and your expectations for the Colts and Purdue football this year?
Well, if my voice sounds a little tired, I stayed up to watch the 9-4 win as we do this last night.
They snapped their streak.
Finally, they lost 5 in a row. Yeah. I still love this team. I love the camaraderie and how they get along together. Right now, we've got 8 pitchers on the DL, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to win when that happens.
Yeah, it really is. It was great to get when you got Lester to give the ball to. I know they showed the graphic on TV. It was 4-1 after, but anytime he's going to pitch a great game.
Yeah.
I hated to see Arrieta go. I know it was more of a business decision and how much salary-wise it was. Because I just loved his fire, and I thought he was a great fit. And I'm not a big Yu Darvish fan, so I hope he wows me now that he's coming off. He's got one more simulated bullpen
he had
appearance.
One up in South Bend earlier this week.
He did, yeah, he did. So I'm optimistic. I'm not high on the Brewers. I know the last series the Cubs didn't play very well against the Brewers. The Brewers won one finally, but. I'm optimistic on them. I think they got great depth. They got good pitching. Our closer hadn't been there. Morrow's been out, so he's coming back off the DL tomorrow, I think is what they said on TV last night. But that's my take on the Cubs.
Yeah.
I love the Cubs.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a Houston fan too, though. And
they're fun to watch
because they were in the National League. You probably don't remember that, but they were in the National League for a long time
in El Central,
and hated them over there. I was so glad to see them go over. And now I don't mind them beating
that's when
the
they
big
had
boys over
killer
there.
bees: Biggio, Berkman, Bagwell.
Yeah, they did.
Even Clemens and Pettit for a little bit. So,
guy named Nolan Ryan when I was growing up was pretty good.
He wasn't bad. Wasn't too bad. Expectations for the Colts heading in the season?
I'm excited about the change. I thought Pagano was a really nice guy, and for some reason, the last couple of years it just wasn't happening. Yeah. So I was sad to see him go, but they always land on their feet because he's good. He's a good person. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited about the change.
I think it's a good coach. I
just want to see Andrew throw more than just a junior football. That's all they kept showing at training camp.
He looks built like a linebacker now.
Oh my gosh, he is cut. Huge. Oh my gosh, is he cut? I mean, he's as cut as Tebow was when Tebow was in his day. But I'm excited about it.
I thought they had a good draft. I really did.
I thought they had a good draft. Yeah. Time will tell. But I've season ticket holder since moving back down there. Mm-hmm. It just has been a nice relief on Sundays. It makes sure you have a date.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
And you're still a season ticket holder for Purdue football?
We still have tickets. Yeah, and it went into more games last year than the last few years.
I think a lot of Purdue fans can say the same.
Yeah, I was real excited about last year and the recruits.
That was fun. And he's off to a great start in 2019 recruiting.
I don't know if he's been named captain, but Jake Tieneman, one of our players in our basketball program at Guerin Catholic, played last year. Wears number 37. His brother Brendan's there also. Plays special teams, and maybe he'll get some time. They're undersized kids, but they're really tough, hard-nosed kids, and they played basketball in our program for a while. They both dropped out to put on weight because they're small guys, but came to every basketball game and still cheered their rear ends off. So I kind of have a pull for them because I've got, I think, maybe 4 kids this year from Guerin Catholic.
He had the game-winning interception in the Foster's Farms Bowl.
Yeah,
he sealed it against Arizona.
Exciting.
But last year was exciting. I've been telling Purdue fans, I think the team will be better on offense this year. I really do, but I think defense is going to take a step back.
Defense
lost a lot last year.
Yeah,
but 10 out of the 12 teams on the schedule made bowls, so it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a tough schedule.
I'm looking forward to going to the games. I hate to say it. The end of the Danny Hope era.
Oh, I was a manager. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Those were tough years.
I was a manager the spring of Coach Hazel's first year, and then
Yeah.
I decided I'd just too much work anymore.
Gosh.
And that the program just went from, I grew up, with, I remember the end of the Breeze era, but I was more of the Kyle Orton era and even the Curtis Painter era. I mean, they were always pretty good, and then it just went downhill so fast. And it's nice to at least get excited again about Purdue football. And
Sadly, for a couple of years, I was an IU fan in football because Mitchell Page, our backup point guard and our 2012 state champion, he's playing professional football now in Germany.
Oh, is he?
He was he made all the training camp last year for the Chargers, made it to the last cut, broke 4 ribs in a game catching a Phillip Rivers pass, and they didn't keep him. They didn't even sign him to the practice squad because he was hurt for a while.
Oh, that's too bad.
So he's playing professional football for the Dresden Monarchs. There we go. In Germany.
Interesting.
And doing great over there. But he was exciting for IU. He fit the way that Tom Allen and before that they played.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to a couple IU games instead of Purdue games to watch Mitchell play.
When Purdue wins 9 games in 3.5 years.
Last year I was excited and eagerly going back and not saying let's give our tickets away or let's not go in.
It should be a fun environment at Ross 8 on August 30th on the Thursday night game against Northwestern.
Hope so. I hope the spirit gets back.
I think
and I hope the blow up doesn't come back like it was there. That was the most exciting thing for a while there. Some of those, Danny, was to see who was going to get thrown out for having the blow up thing in the crowd. And
even on the sidelines.
Purdue fans know exactly what I'm talking about there.
It was even the most excitement on the sidelines there for a while. So, it got about a few more questions here. What advice would you give a new coach or somebody getting the coaching profession, especially in basketball?
Well, for a basketball coach, and I was a head track coach at one time also for a long time. I love track. Assisted in football for 9 years during my careers too. A young coach, stay to your scruples. Don't give in, even though you'll get parental pressure, sometimes administrative pressure to change something that you believe is right. If it's meant to be, then it'll work out, and if it's not meant to be, then it wasn't. Then you need to make a move per se. Athletes don't like to practice, quite frankly, as much with their team as they do their individual trainers in a lot of sports. I'm speaking more basketball. I struggled with that.
Yeah,
I struggled with that. And not necessarily Guerin, more at Carmel. They wanted to do their individual stuff and play their AAU stuff, and I'm more of a team guy when you're wearing our colors. So I think you've got to not cave in or give in to temptations of that's the way kids are nowadays. And when I started to feel like I was doing that last year, it was another sign that it's time. Yeah.
And speaking of your recent retirement, are you completely done, or is there anything that can get you back in anywhere? I mean, are you closing the door on coaching, or is the door still cracked?
As far as I'm concerned, I believe I'm retired.
Okay.
Yeah, because quite frankly, the thing I've learned in the last 2 years is that I love teaching and then going into coaching, and it hasn't been that same way. Now, if somewhere down the road it changes, but I'm gonna give some broadcasting. Like I said, I'm gonna do the HSA Champions Network with Greg Rakestraw, and
that'll be fun.
And see what happens. I'm busy with a lot of other stuff too. I just joined a board of directors of Community First Bank in Kokomo.
Oh, great!
Which I'm a big First Federal Bank.
Hey, there we go.
I have investments in First Federal.
We like hearing that.
Big Dick Belcher fan. But
there we go.
We're moving branches in Hamilton County, where I live, in Noblesville specifically, in Westfield. So I'll be busy with that. That'll take up some time, and after a while, if it's something I'm not enjoying, then maybe I'll get into coaching. But right now, I have no plans on coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, because when your attitude gets bad towards how the game is turning, then you shouldn't probably be in it.
Well, next stop's the IHSAA Hall of Fame. I think so.
Don't know.
I think so.
One of the first questions I got was someone said, "Gosh, you're only 10 wins away from 400."
Yeah.
That's not why I coached.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it wasn't why I coached. So.
Well, thanks for taking the time to do this interview with me. Congratulations on all the success you've had, and it's I've really enjoyed this.
Oh, I've enjoyed listening when I can and knowing some of the people that are on your show.
Yeah,
I loved your some of your things with Coach Hooker.
Oh, that was a fun
who
one.
I did get to play a little bit of varsity baseball my sophomore year with. I got the team picture with Hook in there with flowing hair coming back.
Yep.
And your dad was in that picture too. But I love the city of friendship and pride. I don't know if you guys don't call it that anymore, but that's what
still on the
Mr. Shore
signs coming in town.
And I'm a proud zebra, and who knows what would happen if I would have come here instead of going to Manchester.
Yeah, and one more question I got to ask.
Maybe.
I got to ask this: who was the better between the Lee brothers growing up? Better athlete, Dad or Uncle Nick?
Well,
because I know
your dad and I both were a little bit scared of Nick. So, back when I was younger, I would have said Nick, but I mean, Eric could really shoot.
Yeah.
Your dad could shoot. He didn't force shots. He was a good team player. Nick was a leaper.
Mm-hmm.
Nick was a leaper, and Nick could play great in spurts. There are times you'd say, Nick, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So, they both had their strength, but
it's kind of what I've been told. They're
like both of them, but Eric was my best friend growing up, so I gotta go with my fro girl. Right. We had the two nicest fros on the team.
You guys did. You know, I could pull a mini fro off in college, but I can't so much anymore. Yeah. So, well, thanks again, Pete. Really have enjoyed this, and thanks for taking time to do this.
Hey, really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on, Tanner.
Absolutely.